This is the seventh foodie book tag coming up. Only instead of a winner-winner chicken dinner, I think that this is going to be more of a winner-winner lobster dinner. Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here with the newest foodie book tag. It's been quite some time since I introduced a new foodie book tag, but I have a lot more in store, and I plan to do them a bit more frequently because it seems like they pick up a nice response, especially the more recent, the pasta, the cannoli, and the sausage book tag. Anyhow, I'm going to leave all 6 of the foodie book tags down below, and today I'm going to introduce the seafood book tag. This will include fish, crustacean, mollusks, anything that can be called seafood. And I put together 12 types of seafood, which I must say that this was the most challenging foodie book tag to put together because there are so many kinds of seafood. I had about 21 of them listed, and I had to narrow it down. So I think there's a good chance that I'll be doing a part 2 in the future. Not immediately, but still. Let's get started then. The first one is Lobster, a work you enjoyed much more after reading it a second time. And the reason I have the question structured like this is, up until pre-World War II, lobster was seen the way that we see Spam or something that is not cherished delicacy. And after the war, when lobster was relatively available, or people were eating it during the time, it became a greater desire was attached to it, and for the last 70 years or so, lobster has become a very renowned delicacy. So that's the way I structured the question, and the way that I answered the question is that I picked Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I liked the book the first time as well, but after reading it a second time, I began to realize that this is such a brilliant book, and it's in my top 5 favorite books of all time, too. The next one is Caviar, a renowned work in the eyes of the canon that you cannot stand. I see caviar as being something that is highly cherished and is seen as a very upper-class delicacy. But I also watched an episode of The Amazing Race where they had to eat a bowl of caviar, and just about everyone there was sickened. One person was about ready to give up. But this was a challenging question because I haven't really come across a work that is heavily admired by the canon that I completely wrote off. But I would say that if anything, I'll talk about The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, because I feel that there are so many works of young adult literature that go through the topic of teenage melodrama, and I feel that this is a bit over the top, and Holden Caulfield is relatable in attitude, but he's also I can't stand him. Maybe it's just a personality clash, but I think there are so many other great novels that can be taught in The Catcher in the Rye's place. And we're going to be talking more about this in the upcoming season. I know that 2 of Kelsey's favorite things to talk about when it comes to literature is LGBTQ plus elements and themes in literature, and how much she can't stand The Catcher in the Rye. Those are two things that she really enjoys talking about. Next one is Crab, a work that is hard to find but is worth a search, which crab, if you go to the supermarket or the fish market, it's not as, you can pick it out pretty easily, but having to retrieve it from the water is a task in itself. Just watch The Deadliest Catch. But for that, I chose a story from 75 Short Masterpieces called The Lottery Ticket by Ventura Garcia Calderon. And this short story, which we went over on a previous episode, I think is brilliant. I think that it really enlightened me in its discussion about culture and race and racial injustice, how someone who feels segregated sticks it to those that are operating the function that he attends. Aside from this 75 Short Masterpieces collection, the challenge is great enough to find a biography on Ventura Garcia Calderon. The only one I've come across was not in English. I think that it would be magnificent, though, to see Calderon's works translated. I think that he's really underrated. Next one is Shrimp, a writer that is well-rounded, just the way that shrimp is with the multiple dishes that it can play a role. And for that I chose John Grisham, because while he is known most for his works about law, which he is amazing with describing, I think I learned a lot about the court system through A Time to Kill. He puts a lot into what he writes, and the way that he does research, it makes you think that he can talk about anything and everything, which, as far as I'm concerned, he can. He's gone over nonfiction, he's talked about football, baseball, multiple other sports. He's doing something that's coming up is about a man who has a tumor, and there are two routes to the story. Novel is called The Tumor, appropriately enough. And on one end, it goes over what inevitably happens after he's diagnosed with a brain tumor. And then it takes the same story, only it incorporates 10 years later, if there was a cure. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that comes out, because I feel that John Grisham holds a lot of promise, which I also read The Brethren, and the way that he handles the presidential election in that one was really amazing. Next one is Salmon, an educational, nonfiction book you felt grabbed your attention, which was also a bit of a challenge to come up with an answer because there are so many of them. I was going to do something, 101 Cool Science Experiments, but I felt that that particular work was intended to be fun and aimed to be fun, and I only read so much of it throughout. So I decided to go with something that would not necessarily attract the general population from the topic at hand, but once you read it, you'll be so amazed and fascinated. And for that, I went with Destiny of the Republic by Candice Millard. And this was my favorite book of 2011, because it just takes the topic of what we knew so little, and that was our 20th president of the United States, and unfortunately, what he was known for was serving for a few months, and being our second president to get assassinated. But Millard digs deeper into that and makes the background behind Garfield so enthralling to the point that one begins to think, what would have happened if Garfield was not shot? But even greater, what would have happened if Garfield had better treatment by the doctors? And more so, what would have happened if Garfield didn't get treatment at all? Because historians are pretty sure that what killed Garfield was the mistreatment from the egotistical doctor that was tending to him. But the way that this is written, it's so it's easy to read, and you develop such great empathy to the point that you come out knowing so much more about something that is very much vague in U.S. history. The Kennedy assassination is brought up frequently, but Garfield and McKinley are the two other assassinated presidents, Lincoln being the first. But not so many people talk about the assassinations of Garfield and McKinley, especially since both of them had a decent chance of surviving if conditions were better. Next one is seaweed, often found with sushi. A difficult chapter in what was otherwise a great book. And for that, I chose Chapter 3 of The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Because Chapter 3 explores a turtle crossing the road. On the first attempt, it turned me away, and I decided to read some other things to complete my novel recommendation project that I was taking part in with the fellow members of the Literature Club. But after approaching it a second time, I realized the importance of the turtle crossing the road. And I talk much more about that in an upcoming discussion that we're going to be having. But to make a long story short, it is a naturalist train of thought. Next one is Jellyfish, a work people would be surprised to know you have read. And I don't have the book on me anymore, but it was something I read back in high school when I was engaging in the activity of reviewing books, so I decided to read whatever I can get my hands on, no matter what it was. And the book was The Tea House on Mulberry Street by Sharon Owens, which I feel that it really sparked my appetite with the description of the food. But there was also the obvious drama that took place. It was a cozy read. It was something that is meant to be enjoyed by readers that want to just curl up and read something that has a little bit of drama, but overall gives you that sense of feeling good, which I don't have it on me anymore. It's something that I thought was okay, but I think that somebody else will get much more out of it. Next one is Tuna, a best-selling writer you feel possesses great quality. And I have a lot to say, so I'm going to say it in as short of a window as possible, and the author I choose is Stephen King. But the reason I choose Stephen King is because he is obviously a writer that primarily falls under the horror genre. He's doing much more recently with different genres. He's doing more with mystery thriller, and then he's got his Dark Tower series, which is fantasy. But a lot of people, if you're in school and you got to name an author that isn't literarily appropriate for the discussion, a lot of people right off the bat say Stephen King, which I feel I highly disagree with, because I feel Stephen King really renovated the horror fiction genre to the point that he incorporated his own unique touches. He wrote about vampires, but he does it in a very original kind of way. His works are heavily researched. He writes what he knows. He writes in a very unique format, to the point that it seems as if he writes in a very unique format that really does an outstanding job concentrating on the thoughts of the characters, the development of the characters. And he's written about telekinesis, he's written about that supernatural power of The Shining, he's written about a man getting cursed to become thinner, he's written about these dystopian reality shows or dystopian game shows before these extreme reality / game shows have become a thing. He has contributed so many original ideas, and I feel that in decades' time, people will be going over his novels the way that they're going over Lord of the Flies, which he actually saw great influence in. And I feel that he is, by all means, worthy of being studied. And then you also have the 90s with The Green Mile, Bag of Bones, Hearts in Atlantis, which very much take on a literary tone while also having elements of horror fiction. And they also possess a great capturing of the times, especially Hearts in Atlantis, with how it is very much a novel about Vietnam and the war in Vietnam, and how The Green Mile explores the prison system when they were still using the electric chair. And there's just so much more I can say, but I think to put it to you this way, Stephen King is a best-selling writer for a reason. And it's for a reason of talent. The next one is Trout, a work where your opinion was heavily inspired by time, place, or point of view, which I created the question because Trout is said to taste very much. Trout seems to have a taste that reflects the what it eats. If it eats crustacean, it seems to have a greater taste than if it eats insects. And for that, I chose Stoner by John Williams, which I read last year as a group read with a Goodreads group called Around the World in 80 Books. And I think that if you are a college student or somebody that's looking to become a scholar or a college professor or something along those lines, especially if you are majoring in English, you can relate to Bill Stoner much more than someone who is not in that situation, because Stoner has a bit of a tedious and somewhat of an intellectually snobby personality. But if you look deeper, he's a very introverted person who just wants a fair opportunity for himself and for others. And he's surrounded by dysfunctional relationship with his wife, his unfortunately strained relationship with his daughter, as a result to his wife suddenly wanting to become more involved in her daughter's life, just to pull her away from the husband. And the dean of his department in Hollis Lomax, who intentionally makes Stoner's tenure at the college a living hell just because he decided to fail a student with a condition because the student was cutting corners. Most of Stoner's actions in my mind were justified, and I feel that a lot of it has to do with me being someone who is very much for fairness, doing things legitimately, and being an English major. Next one is Cod. A dense work you feel readers could potentially enjoy if given the patience. And for that, I'm going to go back to The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Because I feel that while people feel that they're going to get caught up in the really slow-paced story, and also Steinbeck's eye to detail and urge to describe the setting and period of time, what this adventure presents is something that is really fascinating and gives you that clear image of what it's like to constantly immigrate to a better life, and how even when you make it to the end, there's still more that you have to do. And there's a turtle in chapter 3. Next one is Eel. A writer you feel shocks you the most. And for that I chose Harlan Coben. I read Tell No One, Hold Tight, and Deal Breaker, and for each of them, I'm constantly on the edge of my seat, wondering what he's going to do next, because he puts in so many intriguing twists and turns, and that's pretty much his theme when it comes to keeping readers on the edge of the seat, and how you are always wondering what's going to happen next, because the way that he sets his stories up, he leaves that idea that there's always hope, which is quite incredible, and I really want to read some more from Coben's bibliography. Next one is Sturgeon. Your favorite work written or set before the common era, because the sturgeon looks very much like it has very prehistoric fossil-like features. And for that, I chose Aesop's Fables, because they've attracted me since I've come across them. They're very witty and clever, and they're just so creative and leave you thinking. Quite something how when they were intended to be comedic. Alrighty, now it's time for the more light-hearted questions. Fish on a dish. What is your favorite seafood/seafood dish? And for that I chose lobster Alfredo, which really delicious to have pasta in Alfredo sauce with pieces of lobster, which is so really good. I'm actually the thumbnail picture is going to be of the lobster Alfredo I ate most recently. Next one is Fish Your Wish. What kind of seafood do you wish to try? For me, I just want to try some more fish in general. I do want to try some crustacean, mollusks, and other things, but though I did see somebody eat, I want to say it was Caviar A, and the facial expression really turned me off. But with regard to fish dishes, as long as it is natural fish, I've got my eye on it. And finally, the social fish and chips. Who do you tag? I'm going to tag a few more people this time. Hopefully, you guys are still sticking around for this particular book tag. I have a feeling that it's going to be my longest yet. But I'm going to tag 12 people. And these are 12 people that I'm really curious to hear answers from. Amy from the Dusty Bookshelf. Let's see if she goes 7 for 7. Winner, winner, lobster dinner. Alyssa from Sushi Dragon Master, who's also done many of my foodie book tags. Steve from Steve Donahue, who likes to be tagged, even though I believe he's a vegetarian or a vegan, and has a lot of strong things to say about the meat and, I want to say, seafood industry. Grace from Grace Libby, who's become more active, but who's become more active in the last few weeks or so, and she's enjoyed doing the foodie book tags. Peter from Peter Clark the Writer. Jordan from The Bookie Babe, both of which have completed my more recent foodie book tags that I've tagged them in. And Julie from A Girl in a Book, who did the pasta book tag, and I am eager to see what you have to say for this one. And I'm actually going to tag some people that I have yet to tag in my foodie book tags. Agnes from Beyond the Epilogue, Sydney from Sid Reads Books, Stephanie from Little Paper Hands, JD from JD Archer, and Giselle from Giselle Bradley. I'm interested to hear what all of you have to say, and I look forward to watching your seafood book tags. I've got plenty of other foodie book tags in mind. I just got to put them together. And I encourage you to go out and have a seafood dish. Thank you for tuning into this video, and for now, keep reading.